Hello everybody, and welcome to the JIC Research Edge. My name is Dan Barnett, and today we're joined by Chris Godby, who is JIC's technology analyst. Today we're going to talk about and preview Apple's new launch of iPhones scheduled to be released this week on September 12th. So last year, about this time, we were previewing Apple's latest launch of new phones, the Apple 8 and Apple 10. Can you tell us a little bit about how the market has reacted to that launch?
This year's line of iPhones headed by the iPhone 10 really had a mixed reaction. So the actual number of units sold was fairly weak, but strong growth in pricing saved the day for Apple. Analysts are expecting about 17% iPhone revenue growth this year for Apple. However, the actual number of units sold are expected to be about flat. That means the entire 17% revenue growth is coming from price, which is just a massive jump for 1 year. Simply put, consumers are showing a willingness to pay up for Apple's best and largest phones, and the company understands that. This year, Apple is expected to go big with 2 new large-screen iPhones, and that could help Apple push pricing even further.
So how does this year's iPhone lineup differ from last year's?
Great question, Dan. So last year's new phone, the iPhone 10, was a completely new update for Apple, and it was the first major upgrade to the iPhone in 3 years. Typically, after we see a major update, Apple will push out an S model, which is essentially a carryover over the previous year. As a result, sales often tend to falter and the stock often underperforms. However, this year's new lineup of phones will feature 3 new phones, and 2 of those 3 will bring something completely new to the mix. As a result, I think we could see Apple post better results versus a typical S year. So let's run down the lineup. Starting with the new iPhone 10, it's basically just a pure carryover of the previous year's model, or an S model if you will. It's going to get a better processor and it's going to get more RAM, but other than that, it doesn't bring anything new to the mix. However, the iPhone 9 does bring something new to the table for Apple. This phone replaces the iPhone 8. It will have the home button removed and Face ID will be included. While the performance likely won't be quite as good as the iPhone 10, it will be at a price point that's about 10 to 20% lower than the new iPhone 10, and it'll have a massive 6.1-inch screen. As a result, I think you'll see value-conscious consumers who want a large-screen iPhone flock to this phone versus the more expensive iPhone 10. And finally, the new iPhone 10 Plus brings a large screen format of the iPhone 10 to the table. It's a 6.5-inch phone versus 5.8 inches for the iPhone 10. I think you'll see a niche of consumers that want Apple's best phone in a large screen format move to this product.
So what is the biggest risk that investors need to be mindful of as we head into this iPhone cycle?
Dan, first and foremost, I continue to believe that Apple makes the best premium smartphone based on performance and innovation. I don't see that changing in the next year, and I don't see it changing in the near future either. I continue to have a great deal of respect for Apple as a company. However, one of the biggest risks that I see is Apple trying to push too far on price. So as we talked about, Apple's pricing on the iPhone is expected to jump about 17% in the current fiscal year, and Apple's expected to continue to push price in the coming year. So eventually, I think you can get to a point where consumers simply throw their hands up and say, I've had enough, and move toward cheaper priced alternatives.
Well, thank you for your time today, Chris, and your thoughtful analysis. And thank you everybody for watching at home. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your Johnson Investment Counsel team.
Thank you.